Developers, welcome back to Hi-Fi Tech and Entertainment channel. In this Fiori training session, today I'm going to explain you the models, types of predefined models, and what are the binding modes and how to use it in our real time. That all topics we are going to cover in today's session. So if you are interested to learn training on SAP Fiori and Fiori Elements and SAP UI5, please join the SAP Fiori Developers Community in my YouTube channel. So, first, this Fiori series, the sixth video will be the models. So, a model is the model view controller concept. It will holds the data and provides the methods to retrieve data and to set and update the data. So what are the predefined models will be there? We will show you now. So these predefined models will provided by the SAP UI5 and SAP UI5 provides the following predefined models. First, the OData model. It will enables the binding of the controls to data from OData service and it supports the following OData versions. One is V2 version and V4 version. Now, JSON model. This model is used to bind the controls to JavaScript object data which is usually serialized in our JSON format. Now, XML model. It is possible to bind controls to XML data and resource model. It is for the one-time binding and provides translation in different languages. This JSON model, XML model and resource model are the client-side models and the model data is loaded completely. It's available on the client side. So now operations such as sorting, filtering and executed on the client without further service request is the service model and only loaded in the data request of the. So now I will show you how to use the JSON model in our controller, how to define it. Here if you see, we are loading our JSON model. How this will be the we will call it in our lifecycle methods. That one I explained you in my previous sessions. If you're not aware, please go through it once. So in this model, what it will do is it will get the data from the view and it will bind the things. So first, if you see here, how to define this model means once you define it here on top, we will maintain some naming convention. Then we added this one in our onInit function. If you see here, we are loading that. So we added this onInit function to the controller. This function we can enhance instance JSON model. The data of the model only contains a single property for the data and it also contains one additional what if we want to maintain some additional and we can maintain it. How to load the data means we have two ways we can load the data by using set data and by using load data. By these two ways we can set the data. In the JSON model itself, we have two different types of model. One is the named model and one is the default model. If you see here, once we define the model here, that model we need to set it and we need to bind the name. For example, how to set the model means this dot get view. If you use this dot get view command, the meaning of this is whatever the view we have, for that view we are setting the model. In case instead of this, if you use the sap.ui.get core means, so throughout the application that model will support. In that scenarios, we have to load your model in our manifest.json files. But this case, what we are doing is we are setting the model to our this view only. Then this is the model name, whatever the model name we define here, right? So that name we have to give it here, and for this model we need to define some other name, that is nothing but named model. So how it, if you see the difference here for the default model and the named model here is, for the default model whatever the model we declared here, that name only we need to set. So that we will consider it as a default model. Or if you want to use some proper naming convention, if you want to give some name for that model, we will maintain like this. For example, this model name is an S data. For further, if you want to bind this, how to bind this? S data is the model name slash, then whatever the items we have, we need to bind that. Example, you can see like this. Here we defined a model, then we will get the view. So once we get the view dot set model, so what we are doing is, for this view we are setting the model. Within that we need to maintain the model name, comma, this is the model name I maintained. So this is the example for the named model. If you don't want to define any name for the model, then no need. If you remove this, it will call it as a default model. That is the difference between named model and default model. Next model is a resource model. This resource model, we will use it for the translation purposes. So by using this way, we all are the centralize the place, and it can be easily translated into the multiple languages. The process of this internationalization is, in shortcut, we will call it as an I18N, and it will be achieved in our SAP UI5 by using this special resource model. And we have standard the data binding context without a preceding characters. I mean, without any maintaining conditions, we will maintain this. How to create a folder for this is, in our web app folder, the I18 folder will create automatically. If it's not there, we can create manually also. This I18 folder will resolve the bundle name in ui5.walkthrough.i18. So if you want, we can go for it and we can do dot properties file for the text contains name, value pair for the each element. So you can add any number of parameters to text by adding the numbers in curly braces, and we can use them. For example, based on this translation, we can maintain. For example, if you see here, this many ways we can maintain the translation. So this is the default model, and if you see, I maintain like I18N underscore N. This is for English and this is for the German. So based on the languages, we need to call our resource file. I mean, we can maintain the translations to our applications. In next video, I will give the complete overview of the I18. I mean, why I18N is name, it's defined, how to use it, and how many ways we can use that in both views and controls. If you want to maintain name, for example 4 to 5 translations, what are the naming conventions we have to follow, that in detail I will explain you in the next session. Now, in finally, what I'm trying to say is, for this resource model, we'll call it as an one-time binding. Mainly, we will use this resource model for the translation purposes. And what are the model binding mode kinds? So if you see here, we have the JSON model, resource model, right? How many ways we can bind that in our UI parties? One-way binding mode, two-way binding mode, one-time binding mode. This resource model is an one-time binding mode. Then what is the one-way binding mode and what is the two-way binding mode? Means the one-way binding mode, one-time binding mode is nothing but throughout the application only one time we have to bind. That's it. So that is the one-time binding. One-way binding mode means either you can bind from view to model, or we can bind the data. Once we get the data from the backend system, that data at one time we will fetch it to our UI screen. After that, if you do some modification, that data won't be uploaded to our backend system. So that is nothing but one way of binding. That means we are binding only one way, either front end to back end data to fetch it to your UI screen, or UI screen data we are sending back to your back end. I mean, posting the data. Two-way binding mode. This is nothing but two ways we will bind the data. For example, in screen level, initially we will fetch some data from the backend, right? So we get response from backend to front end. Again, if you do some changes in the screen level, that data will be updated in our model. So it will support both front to back, back to front. So it will support two ways. That's why we'll call it as a two-way binding mode. Now we can see the whatever the models we have, and with these models defaultly what it will support, and if you want to change these binding modes, how to change it. So for example, we'll consider the JSON model. This JSON model default, it will support the two-way binding. But if you want to set it as a one time or one way, we can set it. How to set it means the model name dot set binding mode. Within the braces, we have to maintain it's an one way or two way. How to maintain that ways means we will, in coming sessions, we will show you for the real time scenarios. Next, XML model. This XML model default it will be two-way binding, and it will support same way for the one time and one way. But maximum cases we will use only JSON model, not the XML model. Why? Because this XML model will holds the limited set of data only, but JSON model will supports you the bulk of data. That's why we will maintain the JSON model all the times. Resource model. This resource model defaultly it's an one-way binding mode. It won't support the two-way at all. If you want to set it as an one-time binding, we will set it. Now OData binding mode. This OData binding mode is two types of OData model will be there. One is V2 and one is a V4. These two are server side models. Server side model is server models, and whatever you are seeing like a JSON, XML resource model, these are the client side models. This OData model defaultly V2 model is an one-time binding mode. V4 model is a two-way binding mode. The main when if you see the difference between the V2 binding model and V4 binding model means here the V4 binding model will support the two-way. I mean it will support directly. With default mode is the two-way. It will, and if you want to change it to one way or one time, we can change it. And the main difference for V2 and V4 is the V4 binding model defaultly it will supports the filtering, sorting and searching parameters, and also it will supports the batch calls directly, and the program even compared to V2 and V4 it will call the batch calls, so the performance will be very good in our V4 model. Next, so let's jump into the real time how we will use it for the JSON model and the resource model. In our previous video, we developed one simple form, right, in our XML views. Now, for that one, I will show you how to use the JSON and also resource model. So this is the form we did last time. For that, we will perform the JSON model and resource model. If you guys remember last time we used some CSS to merge this. If you remember that one we loaded in our component.js file just to adjust the margining part of our applications. This is one. If this is the standard name we use it, right? Size compact and size core. So here first I will define a JSON model, then I will write it. First define the JSON model here. SAP slash UI slash model slash JSON model. So what is the benefit once you load here means, so for this we will define one same naming convention. Same thing we need to call throughout the application. In case if you didn't maintain this, what it will happen is for wherever you want to define your JSON, that many times we need to write this one. How we will write this? Where model equal to new sap.ui.model.json.json. Like this, every time you need to write. Now already I declared the JSON model in the top, right? So what I will do is this same name, I will use it here. That's it. So if you see here, this one, the model we define but we didn't use this model through the application. So what I will do is I will create one object data and I will bind that data to our form, the simple form. Then I will set this model to this view. How to set is this dot get view dot set model dot o model. That's it. So this one we will call it as a default model. In case if you define some name for this, for example, this application is the customer, right? So what I will do is I will define a named model will be the customer. Oh, customer. So if you define like this, we will call it as a named model. That's how we need to define. Then what I will do is before this, I will create some object constant o data equal to yes. Then name. So this is the name I defined. This data I need to set it to the model. Two ways we can set it. First one, directly you can copy and paste it here. So then what it will do is within the model the data will set. Now we can bind this model to the view. This is the way we can set it. In case if you don't want to do this, means we can do like o model dot set data. What data you want to set? This object data. This way also we can do it. Otherwise, another way if you want to do it means load data. Load data. Both things will be the same. Now, first initially, I will just guide you for the basic steps. So just simply I will do this. And this named model, what we have to do is we have to declare it the field wherever you want to bind. How to define that things means we need to give flower braces slash. Here we need to define the named model, right? In case if named, first I will show you without named model how to do. If this is the case, now I didn't define any named model, just the field name, this is there. This case, what we need to do is just I need to bind this name slash name. That's it. So directly it will happen. Just save it. If you see now, it's not saved. So what I will do is just I will copy this input and I will maintain before the input and we will run. This will work or not. Just reload it. We'll see. Still if it's not there, I will show you why it is not coming. So if you see here, the data is binded directly. So if you see within the form, I defined already input is there, just slash name. So that means what meaning of this is whatever the name, the object name I want to bind, that binding name we need to map it to our view. So directly I'm setting this to the model. I will show you in debugging mode what it will come when you run the model. Go to the source. Once you open the source, here we have a controller. Just keep breakpoint in on init function. How to keep breakpoint means you should keep cursor here. You need to press. Then just reload the application. Once you reload it, now F10 or if you click on this link step by step it will come. What it happened now the object is declared within the object name is there. Now the model is defined within the model I set the data. If you see, when I keep cursor here, within the constructor, we can see what are the properties and everything. But I maintain the data here, right? So I will show you the data. See that within the data, the name is model. Then what it will happen? This dot get view means I will call the instance of this view. For this is the view. We can see that this is the view name, whatever we have. For that view, I'm setting the model. So then what it will happen is whatever the data we defined object here, that data will set it to our model. Then what it will happen is the name, whatever we defined it, right, that one will fetch it to our view. That's how we need to bind the JSON model. Here, if you see, I maintain the slash, right? The meaning of the slash mean it within the model, it will jump to the one layer. For example, this is the model, right? Within this, it will jump inside the object, whatever the data will be there for to fetch that data. In case if you maintain extra naming before for this object means, for example, what I will do is within the object I will define one more object, that is the customer. This is the object name I maintain, colon flower braces. This name I will define it now here. If this is the case, how to define that means is first slash, what as I told you, if you maintain the first slash, it will jump into the one object. So we need to maintain this name here first, slash of customers. Within the customers, we have an object. Within that, we need to go inside. Then we need to maintain slash. Then what it will happen? First, within the model, it will jump. It will go to the customer. Within the customer, it will take the model. Here, I will do one more thing, comma. Here I will define one more name, mail, colon, here one more object, name equal to hi. So if you see, I define two objects, but I want to fetch the customer name only in my input field of customer name. So if I maintain like this, what it will happen? First it will jump into the here, within that it will jump to name. By you, if you use slash, it will happen like that. Now run the application. You can see now. See, now what I will do is instead of customer, I will bind this mail. If I bind this mail, what will happen? First, within the model, it will jump into the mail first. Within the mail, it will check for the object name. So that's how we need to maintain the path. You right? For example, if you use the named model for this, what we need to do? Now, customer. This is the named model I maintain, comma. Here named model like this we need to define. So first it will check that named model, that model is there not within the model. First it will jump to that object. Within that it will check the field of that values. See, so now you guys see the difference of normal model and named model, right? So these two ways we will bind the data. Same way you want to bind everything. Now I binded name here. Now I want to bind discount. If you see here, this is the JSON structure we are maintaining to bind the data. So that's how you need to bind the either named model or normal model. Based on your requirement, you need to bind. Here if you see, I maintain some following naming convention, that is O model. So if you declare any variable, maintain like a camel structure. So first letter should be a small letter and second letter should be in capital letters. So this is the SAP standard preference way to maintain the structure. Now what I will do is I will show you the translations how we need to maintain. If you see here, already default translation file is there. This one, when you create an application, this will generate automatically. So if you see here, whatever the translation, the app title, app description, the title, that things already it's binded here. You can see that for the title section. Let me show you there where we binded that. Let's go to the manifest.json. Here it is. So same thing, if you want to bind the I18 folder in the XML view, means just we need to maintain, like for example, this new customer header text I want to maintain I18. What I will do is we need to declare it as flower braces I18n less than panel header. That's it. So then go to your I18 folder, whatever the name you define it here, define that name equal to, that's it. So now once you run the application, if you see, the panel header will come directly the new customer. See? So that's how we need to maintain the I18 folder. If you want to maintain the multiple languages, we'll create a new file and maintain a file name .i18n dot whatever the language you want to maintain that, and the same names we need to use it there. And after the application, whatever the trans language you want to see, you will load that one. So if you want to in detail explanation of the I18, please let me know in the comment section. So I will give the complete details what is I, how 18 will come, how n will come, and how many ways we can use the I18 file in the controller views, and dynamically if you want to maintain the I18 files, how to maintain that, all things. If you want me means, please let me know in the comment section. I will do a complete video and upload it. If you like this video is helpful and this tutorial is understanding to you, please give in a comment section like it's useful. And if you want to learn more videos on this, join the SAP Fiori Development Community. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe and click the bell icon to get notifications for my channel. Thank you.